Hey buddy, watch this.
Hello, hello, Regis Kilbin is the name, and Hearthstone is the game, and this is the Advice Arena, where I give you advice on playing in Arena. This time around, we are starting a brand new run. Warlock is the class I have selected, and as you can see, we're using the Hearth Arena companion app to assist me in this drafting process. I think it provides some additional insights into my own commentary and gives you some extra information as well to help base your picks. And if you're up for it, I think using the Hearth Arena companion app actually makes a ton of sense in your own drafts as well. So I encourage you to check that out. There is a link in the description if you want to take a look. But let's go ahead and jump right into our first pick this time around. And I agree pretty strongly with Hearth Arena here. Implosion is a totally ridiculous card in Arena. Removal spells, of course, are great in Arena. And summoning dudes is great in Arena as well. And Implosion just so happens to do both. And in instances where it hits for 4 and summons you 4 imps, it can basically be a game-winning play in many ways. So pretty fantastic card all around. I like Defender Vargas as well. It just is a nice value type minion that rewards a board presence, which is typically pretty easy to get as Warlock, just because you normally get a lot of stuff out pretty early, and it gives you taunts, which can be vital as well. And the buff, of course, is basically instant and has charge on minions that are on the board already, so pretty big upside there. Argent Watchman, on the other hand, is just awful, terrible in every way. That might be overkill, but it basically requires you to spend 2 mana anytime you want to attack, and that can be a really restrictive play, particularly when you play this on 2 going into turn 3, so you kind of have to end up spending 3 mana just to make this attack. That can be pretty bad. So Implosion is an easy choice, but I wouldn't mind getting a Defender of Vargas a little later in the draft. Here, I agree with Clockwork Knight. It's just got the most value for its stats. We might get a mech, and that'd make it even better, but even as a 5-mana 5/5, just a standard body, it's really quite good. The problem with Spawn of N'Zoth is it's pretty slow. 2/2 for 3 dies to everything around that mana cost, right? It dies to 2 drops, dies really unfavorably to 3 and 4 drops, so doesn't do much on the board, and it's hard to make that Death Rattle work. Your opponents essentially get to decide when that Death Rattle goes off a lot of the time, making the buff pretty inconsistent. Plus, it's usually only going to hit like 1 or 2 things in Arena, so it's not even that good. You might get 4/4 in total stats out of this card, which is okay for a 3-drop, but not insane. And usually you just get a 2/2 that does nothing, which is bad. And Silverback Patriarch, of course, just the stats are so all over the place awkward. No attacks, it never trades. The health's not even that good. The taunt is okay, can be relevant, but just not a good card. So Clockwork Knight, not the best card ever, but takes the cake. These are all pretty decent in my mind. I like charged minions like Wolf Rider and Bluegill Warrior a little better than Hearth Arena. Like, I put them in the 60 range, and I think Hearth Arena usually puts them in the 50s. So I'm even higher on Wolf Rider than this score would suggest, but it's still not better than these options. And thankfully, these are actually both mechs, which is pretty cool since we do have the Clockwork Knight already. So some mech synergies are starting to arrive. I'm not quite sure why Psychotron is being recommended over Harvest Golem here, according to Hearth Arena. It's a toss-up to me anyway. Like, they're both good. But I'm actually leaning slightly towards Harvest Golem, just so that we know we have some early game, a nice value card in the early game. Psychotron's good. It's a taunt. That's all valuable. But it's the same mana cost as Clockwork Knight, so, if you play these on curve, it's going to be hard to get Psychotron into Clockwork Knight in a smooth fashion. Harvest Golem could be easier if you play Harvest Golem Coin, Clockwork, or if this just sticks around on the board. It has 2 parts, so it's a little stickier to guarantee the buff here. So the tier scores here suggest Harvest Golem just a little over Psychotron, and I agree with that. I'm just not sure why it's getting the 2-point boost from the synergy, even though the synergy exists for both cards. But Psychotron is a good card. We do need taunts. It's a very annoying thing to deal with in Arena. I think maybe it's recommending this because Warlock does have a lot of early game cards that are going to show up in the draft, and particularly good 3-drops like Imp King Boss. So maybe we want to make sure we have some late game cards, and that's why Psychotron's getting the slight edge, and I can buy into that. Plus, I do want to give Hearth Arena its due, and when we're using the Hearth Arena companion app, I do want to follow the advice to give you some insights. Clockwork Gnome's pretty intriguing, yeah, I like it. Torn Wire's bad. I feel like we discussed this in every advice arena, but just in case you're new, the stats aren't good for a 3-drop. It dies to 2 drops, it dies to 3 and 4 drops, often for free. The Enrage rarely ever matters because most of the time 3 health's just going to die with 1 shot of anything. So the taunt is okay, but it's much like Silverback Patriarch, just not enough stats to really be relevant as a taunt. Silver Moon Guardian's okay, you know, it's a 3/3 for 4, which is weak, but the Divine Shield really makes it in many ways like a 6/4 for 4, if you think about it that way, right? It usually gets to attack twice and has at least 4 health because the Divine Shield absorbs 1 shot. So there's some upsides there, but unfortunately it doesn't kill things in quite that fashion, right? And can just be awkward, and there are better 4-drops out there. So the Clockwork Gnome, though, is intriguing because we do want to have some early game cards, of course, get off to a smooth start. We already have mech synergies in the deck, which I like. And sometimes as Warlock, if you don't get enough 2s and you want to rely on your life tap, it's good to know that you have a 1-drop to fall back on, or on turn 3, you know, you can basically do that. Oh, Fearsome Doomguard's intriguing, but Tomorrow's Tiger's not bad either. Yeah, Hearth Arena totally agrees with me here that this card is not bad, 58, and Tomorrow's Tiger is not bad either. Like I said, this does get the slight edge though. Probably because we don't have any 2-drops yet, and we do have some, you know, mid to late game like bigger cards. And the problem with Fearsome Doomguard compared to something like a Bog Creeper, of course, is that it doesn't have taunt, and sometimes big cards like this can just get ignored by your opponent, and it doesn't trade into a bunch of small stuff very well. So it can be a slow play, whereas Murloc Tidehunter is just a bundle of stats early. And you get a 3/2 for 2, which is normal, but they're split up in ways that can be pretty favorable. Ironfur Grizzly's fine. It's just another 3-mana taunt. We've had a lot of those. 3-mana taunts just aren't that impactful. This is probably the best as far as the stats are concerned, just because it trades a little better, but still not an exciting card. I will follow Hearth Arena's advice here because I do like both these, but Murloc Tidehunter makes sense with Warlock and a more aggressive start. Dark Peddler's pretty amazing. Yeah, it's going to be hard to pass this up. Although Dread Infernal is an amazing card. A 6/6 body is always fantastic, plus this Battlecry is an active instant effect, which can ping off stuff from your opponents and make big plays. This is a little worse, though, when we do have a consistent early game and a lot of token minions already. Like, look how many 1-health minions we already have. So this could end up killing your own board, plus we have a Divine Shield, so that could hurt there. Still like Psychotron. Normally Psychotron's always a good pick, but these are all 3 amazing cards. Hopefully we continue to get high-quality cards like this, as opposed to, you know, sometimes it's better that these high-quality cards are split across multiple picks instead of all in one pick, because you can basically get 3 bad picks later on and be like, oh, let me go back and trade. But Dark Peddler is just a good 2-drop with a ton of upside. Discovering a card is valuable because not only do you get an additional card, and this can turn into a 3-drop, but also because you get to pick which card it is. So sometimes you can make a really impactful decision, and having that right of decision means you can make specific and important, impactful plays. So I love Dark Peddler as well. It's a great choice here. So these are both good, but Dread Infernal I think we still take, despite the problems I mentioned. Right, it is actually getting penalized as far as Hearth Arena is concerned. You can see went from an 89 to an 84 because of those counter synergies. But this stuff won't always be alive. Like, it will die off. We can make trades and then play the Dread Infernal. Like, we have control over that because this is an effect we control. Plus, it has upside. Our opponent might have all that stuff too, so we can pull off kills. Ventrico is fine, but when you already have good 5-drops, it gets worse, and it can penalize you pretty heavily, right? If it sticks around and it isn't doing enough, it can be slow and penalizing, and that can hurt. Possessed Villager is a fine 1-drop just because you get pretty decent stats out of it, and you can make some cool trade-up plays. But again, Dread Infernal is just too strong. These are all kind of intriguing, right? this one's normally a decent card, but we're very unlikely to get beasts as a warlock in particular. So it's just an 8 mana 8/8, right? It's and we already have late game options. We've already passed up that Fearsome Doom Guard, which you'd prefer over this. Hellfire is good if you're behind, right? It's really good if you're behind. So if you have a slow deck, you anticipate your opponent beating you out onto the board, this can be a great recovery card, and Area of Effect removal is really good in Arena. The problem, of course, with this one is that it does kill your board too. So we have a pretty early curve already, right? We have some minions. I think we're going to be out on the board early. And this could end up being more punishing than it is helpful. I think we'd be better off trying to build in just more early game to make sure we get out to a good start and won't need a card like Hellfire. And Bone Guard is a good 2-drop with a lot of upside. It's good stats to start, ton of upside, and Hearth Arena's right. It can make up a lack of a 4-drop. It's you can Bone Guard Lieutenant, life tap, you get the card draw value, and you get a 3/3. So it's kind of like it says 3/3 draw a card for 4 mana. So something like the Tomb Spider, I guess it's called. Pretty similar a card to that, which is a decent 4-drop. Of course, you also take 2 damage as a Warlock, but that's typically a pretty minimal downside. So I like this pick. Bone Guard Lieutenant's a good card too. Frost Ellie's amazing here. Oh, wow. Wow. Elven Archer's going to get the edge on Hearth Arena. I cannot buy into that right now. We already have a ping effect with Dread Infernal. Like, we have Implosion to pick stuff off. We can get a ping effect from Dark Peddler. I do not think it's worth giving up the Frost Ellie. I mean, granted, I just said we want an early curve, but I don't know. Early curves in Warlock are less risky than in other decks because you always have your hero power as an outlet to draw new cards. The Jungle Panther is not a terrible card by any means, but just doesn't play in here. It's not as good as the Frost Ellie. It can trade up, but it dies almost always when it does. You don't have like buffs or anything to take huge advantage of this, so pretty middling card. I just can't believe that this makes sense. I guess we do have 2 5-drops and a 6-drop, right? So maybe Frost Elemental's getting a little dinged for that. I don't know. I feel like this is a pretty arbitrary distinction. You can see the tier score. Frost Ellie's better. Even the actual score, based on our deck, they're tied. I can't buy into this. I'm going to take Frost Elemental. I may regret it, sure, but I'm going to do it. Bomb Lobber's pretty sick. I think we're going to pick this, right? Yeah, I think that's the right decision. This card is really good. Bomb Lobber's sick, like I said. Doesn't look like much as a 3/3, but dealing 4 damage and clearing a minion instantly is almost always worth it. It lines up perfectly all the time. And you still get a decent body, so a strong card for board presence and sometimes a strong tempo card as well. Wobbling Runts is really not terrible because it's a bundle of stats, right? You get what? You get an 8/12 total, which is pretty good for 6 mana. Unfortunately, all those 2-attack minions don't trade like an 8/12, and it's susceptible to AoE, so a lot of potential downsides with that card. It just doesn't impact the board very significantly. Pint-Sized Summoner, it's a 2/2, right? So it doesn't have great stats for a 2-drop. It dies to a lot of stuff for free. Doesn't make favorable trades ever against other 2-drops. And the upside is actually better in Warlock than in most classes, because if you do use it to kind of expel your hand rapidly, at least you can recover with your hero power. But still, not nearly influential enough to pass up Bomb Lobber for. Dark Scale is probably my pick, but I do like Wolf Rider pretty well as well. Dark Scale's good because Heal is reasonably good as a Warlock, because we will be hero powering some in the late game, and this could help recover. Plus, Dread Infernal could hurt our stuff, and this could help recover. Dread Corsair is just a bad taunt. It's worse than the Ironfur Grizzly because we'll never have a weapon, so it's not going to be cheap. It's just a weak card. I like Wolf Rider, actually, and we need some 3-drops. So I'm not opposed to this at all. But Darkscale Healer makes some sense. We have a lot of 5-drops though, so we may not want another one after this. I'll take the Darkscale Healer on the recommendation of Hearth Arena, but I'm actually really close on Wolf Rider. There's a 5-point separation here, but to me, it's neck and neck. Wrathguard, I think, is the best pick here. We need 2 drops still, but you know, we'll likely get a lot more. But it's actually a pretty solid one in Arena. You don't care about your health total being affected, so if they, or at least, you know, to an extent, you don't care. So if they play a 2-3 and you play this, it can make it really awkward for them. And they can kill their 2-drop and then also kill their 3-drop, and you can get way ahead on the board. Nightblade's really bad stats for 5. You don't care about doing damage, as we just said, so we have a lot of 5-drops, so it's an easy pass. Youthful Brewmaster's not terrible, I guess. It's a 3-2 for 2, which is fine. It trades okay. It does have some synergies, right? We can pop a Divine Shield and get it back. We can pull pings out. We can pull freezes out. We could heal again. We could buff again. We could bomb lob again. There's actually a lot. We could summon a dude again. We could pick a card again. Actually, a ton of synergies with this thing. It's kind of intriguing. But the problem with pulling cards off the board in general is that you want your cards on the board. You want them doing stuff. So until the super late game, when you have like spare mana anyway, and you can play this and pull back the Psychotron and replay it, and you still had mana left over, that's a good play. But the thing with Warlock is we're going to be life tapping enough that we'll always have more cards to play. So this gets worse, in my opinion, in Warlock than in any other actual class. So I'll take the Wrathguard here. I think that's the right pick. Just the best bundle of stats. Dark Peddler's good, but Dark Iron Dwarf's good too. And we need 4-drops. The thing about Dark Peddler, though, is it can turn into a 3-drop, right? And we actually need 3-drops as well. So it's just such a good card, right? It's just so good. I don't think you can pass it up. We've already discussed why. Oasis Snapjaw is bad 4-drop, doesn't trade, doesn't do anything, unlike Dark Iron Dwarf, which still has reasonable stats as far as the attack value is concerned, and the Battlecry is really good at trading up. I'd normally love to take this card, but Dark Peddler can basically get you an Abusive Sergeant, which then it becomes a 4-3 with the same effect, right? So it's very similar to Dark Iron Dwarf sometimes, and more flexible and a little more upside. So I kind of like this one, but this is close too. I mean, this is a good card. I'd love to get this next, right? Oh man, I don't know. I don't know about this. I don't know if I can buy into this. I think we have to take the Hungry Dragon. We don't have any 4-drops right now. Murloc Raider, really? I mean, we don't have Murloc synergies. We don't have... I mean, it's a 2-1 for 1, which is always okay, right? It's always fine, because it can make awkward plays early. I love 2-1s on 1, but I like them with effects. I like good ones. Stealth or spare part right here, something that, you know, the old Leper Gnome did something at least. This doesn't do anything. Succubus is, you know, it's a worse Wrathguard. You'd rather take damage than discard a card because cards are super valuable. So you'd rather have Wrathguard every time. It's risky to play this. You can throw off your curve, make bad plays. Hungry Dragon's also risky, right? Because you don't want to give your opponent minions, but at least it's got good stats, and it's a 4-drop, which we need. And it's the highest tier score card. I don't know why it's getting penalized in this particular deck. It goes from 42 to 40, which drops it below, and this is getting upped. I'm going to ignore the advice and take the Hungry Dragon. Oh, Northsea Kraken's good. Northsea Kraken's good. We need some bombs. We have Dread Infernal. It's also still great, right? But we have enough cards around that mana cost that it's starting to look worse. Cogmaster is not great as a 1-drop. If you don't have mechs, it's bad, and it's pretty hard to pull off mechs like that consistently. I mean, granted, we do have some, but most of them are more towards the late game, so we don't have like a bunch of 2-drop mechs that could naturally curve in from Cogmaster to a 2-drop, so a little worse. I mean, granted, Cogmaster Coin Clockwork would be a sick play, but it's never going to happen. So Northsea Kraken, most consistent choice here. Really fantastic drop, good stats, instant effect, clear something off the board, can pull you out lethal, just a good overall card. Oh my god, this is awful. This is one of the worst sets of picks I've ever seen. Wow. Okay, this is how it's gonna go. Wait, now see that turn we had like the 3 good cards. I forget what they were, but it was like a Dread Infernal and a Dark Peddler and something else good, and we picked the Dark Peddler. Why couldn't one of those cards be swapped into this route, into this turn, into this? Like why couldn't we go this route instead? That route instead of this route. Excuse me. Instead, we're stuck with these absolute trash tier cards. This should have like a picture of a trash can right here. Instead of this crown, it should have like a trash can on top. Oscar the Grouch should just pop out of here. Terrible 3-drop. It doesn't trade into anything. We don't have like buffs for it to make it relevant. No value in this card at all. It's beyond its cuteness. It does nothing. No Murloc synergies. So Hearth Arena's right. This is the pick. But Faceless Behemoth is terrible. It sits in your hand. Sometimes you just play it on 10 and it's so slow it doesn't do anything. There's no taunt. It's just an awful card. Razorfin Hunter looks good here. We definitely need 3-drops and it's a decent one, so makes sense. Snapjaw's still just too slow for 4. Doesn't do enough. No buffs. And Tentacle of N'Zoth can be okay sometimes. It can be like a thing that kills a 2-drop. But we have an early game in a lot of 1-health stuff that we don't want to punish, so definitely Razorfin Hunter makes the most sense here. Just gets us stats. Bog Reaper's amazing. We're taking this. But I also love Nerubian Prophet. Great card. Can be a high-tempo play when you get it out really discounted. And it's flexible mana cost as well, which is always nice to have. Young Dragonhawk just doesn't do enough. No Wind Fury on defense. Just terrible all-around card. Bog Creeper's amazing. Big bundle of stats. Forces action through it thanks to the taunt. So just a better Fearsome Doom Guard here in every way. Oh, intriguing. I like both of these, but this is a 7-drop, which is we could use some more late game. Well, we're getting pretty heavy on late game, actually. Between all these 5s. This might be our last late game card. Possessed Villager's intriguing. Yeah, so Hearth Arena suggests we're actually curving a little too late for Possessed Villager. Could make our draws inconsistent. Basically, when we get to the end game, we want to make sure we get big cards, like 2 out of 3 draws, basically. Because with the hero power, essentially, we get 2 draws per turn. We want to make sure we get a big guy like every turn or every other turn. Having too many little guys could jeopardize that. So Possessed Villager, despite normally being a pretty good card, limits that late game draw potential. Frigid Snowbolt's awful, just doesn't trade at all. It's a worse Turtle. It's a worse Oasis Snapjaw. I mean, the spell damage is good, but we don't have any spells right now except Implosion, so very unlikely to be relevant. And Floating Watcher's a good 7-drop. This thing can get out of hand really quickly. We actually have a couple cards that do damage to us too, right? We've just one, I guess. Dread Infernal right now. Wrathguard also technically sort of does, so a couple cards to... Oh, it tells us right here, I guess. A couple cards that do, so... nice pick. A scary card in general. I guess this? I don't know. This is weird. I guess, yeah, sure. Why does it go from 108? Why does it go from 53 to 108? Okay, Hearth Arena saying we're an attrition deck, right? We've got a lot of late game stuff, so Twisting Nether can help us clear the board. Yeah, Anima Golem is just ridiculous. You spend 6 mana on a minion that just literally kills itself for free a lot of the time. So really awful. Hungry Crab. We actually have a Murloc that we could sacrifice pretty efficiently. And, opponents play Murlocs too. This is not the craziest idea ever, but I agree Twisting Nether was my first instinct. Hearth Arena backs that up. With a late game deck like this, a big crazy board clear could allow us to reestablish and drop big threats if the opponent really rushes us out. These are all sort of intriguing. Okay, I can buy into this. Hearth Arena suggests again that low curve cards at this point could really risk our deck integrity as a late game deck. So drafting them at this point is a high risk unless they're very good cards. So We take the best card here. That's also another 7-drop. This is basically another Floating Watcher in many ways. Actually, it's identical to Floating Watcher for Warlocks. So, another late game card. Huh. I don't know about this. These are all bad. These are all bad. Questing Adventure is a 3-drop, which we kind of need, but we're not probably going to be playing a ton of cards in a given turn at any given point. So this is probably just a 2/2 or a 3/3 that dies really easily for its cost. So high risk, low reward card. It could be high reward in a deck where you have a ton of stuff and a lot of card draw or whatever, but we don't have a ton of stuff despite having a lot of card draw. Argent Watchman, I think we already talked about. Just can't ever attack without spending some mana to do it. And pretty weak. Even, stats are good, but not amazing. And you're really pigeonholing yourself to make it relevant at all. So that leaves us with Young Priestess, and she's a little too early game, granted, but all these are early game cards, and I think she's the least risky and has some potential upside. So, and again, I like 2/1s that have a good effect, so it makes sense to me. Bog Creeper's good. Dark Bomb's also intriguing, but with all these late game cards, I guess we're just going to go all in at this point. And I actually like Bluegill Warrior better than most people, but I would never take it over Dark Bomb, because Bluegill Warrior to me is basically a 2-mana spell that does 2 damage. So a 2-mana spell that does 3 damage is much better. So I definitely prefer Dark Bomb over Bluegill, but the Bog Creeper is really just one of the best cards in the game for Arena. It's just ridiculous. It's so good because it has Taunt primarily. I think I actually like Loot Hoarder better here. I don't know. Hearthstone is suggesting Stormpike Commando because it's, we have an attrition deck, as it's calling it, which means really late game oriented. And this supports that mentality, right? It's a later game card, has a ping effect, which is pretty valuable, I'll admit. But I don't know if it's got enough raw strength. I actually like Loot Order here because I still think we could use a couple 2-drops. Or 3-drops for that matter. Actually, probably 3 and 4-drops are more relevant. And it's card draw without having to use my hero power. I'm a little worried we're going to hit points where our health total is just too low, even though we have all these defensive cards and big cards. So drawing a nice card that doesn't cost 2 health could be cool. But I don't know. Hearthstone pretty firmly suggests this, and I am a glutton for data and science, and their recommendation is going to be more scientific than mine. So I think I'm going to take the Stormpike Commando against my better instincts. I think Imp King Boss has to be the pick. I actually think Acolyte of Pain's intriguing because we're not really trying to win the board, perhaps, in the early to mid-game. We're just trying to stick around and contest and draw cards. But Imp King Boss kind of does the same thing as Acolyte of Pain, right? It doesn't draw cards, but it's slightly better statted, and it creates value, which is what you're trying to get out of Acolyte of Pain. But it creates value more instantly. And, of course, it's just a great, ridiculous arena card, right? It's just hard to deal with. Trades really well into 2-drops, creates extra value. Like, it's insanely good always. But in this particular kind of deck, I don't think Acolyte of Pain is quite as far away as Hearth Arena would suggest. Every other time, as a Warlock, you don't need card draw. But with this deck, I don't know, it makes a little bit of sense. I guess, though, really, we're not going to need that much card draw because we're going to be playing 1 card per turn because everything's so expensive. So, really, it's quite easy. Draconic Crusher is probably not terrible either, but we have so much around that mana cost already, right? We don't need more big bombs. We need 3-drops and 4-drops, honestly. I don't like any of these. Tidecaller, way too weak. No synergies. Instant out. Ravenloft Assassin, kind of makes some sense. But we have a lot of super late game cards. And the problem is, I think we're going to need some defensive stuff just to make sure that we stay alive. An Abomination is a taunt and a potential board clear recovery type card. So it makes sense. It's actually pretty good in this deck. It also has some synergies with Floating Watcher, which is cool. So I think we'll take it. It's pretty good actually here. It fits pretty well what we're trying to accomplish. Yeah. This is debatable though. The problem with this, of course, right, is that we're rarely ever gonna make it big. We're only gonna be playing 1 minion at a time after we play this on turn 3. So I don't know, a 2/5 for 3 is good, but not like crazy. It's good with Imp King Boss. It's good with Implosion, of course. That's actually really, really sick combo. It's good with like Dark Peddler. So I like it. I like it. But Nerubian Prophet's intriguing too, because it can be a 3-mana 4/4. And it can help us recover a big board. In other words, it can help us establish our board after finally whittling away our opponent's board and like stabilizing. This helps us apply counter pressure for free. So in other words, if this sits in our hand all the time while we're trying to stay alive, trying to keep up, we can finally play like, North Sea Kraken and a free Nerubian Prophet to apply a ton of pressure. But this hole in our curve makes me super ridiculously nervous. So I think we have to pick some curve-based cards, and Darkshire Councilman fits that mentality. I think Faceless Shambler has to be the pick, right? Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, that's a lot of text here, man. I don't think Faceless Shambler has bad synergy with our deck. And what mentality does that? We have so many big minions. This could be a really cheap giant taunt. We could actually make Faceless Behemoth relevant. I think it fits our deck sort of well. I mean, granted, on turn 4, it's not going to do anything. We can maybe make a taunted Imp King boss. That's bad. I get that. But if we save it to the late game, it could be super relevant. Problem with Frost Giant is we have so much late game, and by the time we could play it at a cheap cost, we'd be dead anyway. And so it's super slow. And Scaled Nightmare, I don't know. It can get out of hand, I guess, but we have so much late game still that I don't see it. I just don't think it's going to be a good turn 6 play. We need stuff that really impacts the board quickly in the mid game so that we don't fall too far behind. So I think Faceless Shambler fits. Hearth Arena is a little off. Earthen Ring Farseer is good because the heal is relevant. We need 3 drops still, and although Hungry Dragon's a 4-drop, which we also need, we can still slot together like a 2 and a tap on 4. Lowly Squires just doesn't do enough. We need more mid-game, early to mid-game cards. So Earthen Ring Farseer makes a lot of sense to me. I guess Sideshow Spell Eater, but that's risky. I don't know. Because we don't really want to copy their hero power. Yeah, these are all bad cards. I don't know. We don't need 6 drops, granted, and we don't really want to copy our opponent's hero power, I don't think. We'd end up getting Mage, Paladin, and Rogue hero powers. Rogue, in particular, would be terrible. This is a 5-mana 7/7 some of the time. Other times it's a 5-mana heal 7, because they just kill it before they let it get out of hand. So if it's a 5-mana 7/7, that's pretty cool. We do have a lot of taunts we can hide it behind. I don't know, it makes sense. Anima Golem's not even in the consideration. It's a terrible card. Yeah, we'll try it, but look at this ridiculous thing. So let's exit out of this. We don't actually need Hearth Arena to help us play, just to help us draft. I don't know. This is awkward. We have 3 4-drops, potentially 2 of which are unplayable at turn 4. A lot of late game. A lot of late game. We play slow decks, we're in business, but everybody else, we might have trouble keeping up. We have some high-quality cards, Imp King Boss, Dark Peddlers, but I don't know, some recovery cards, right? Bomb Lobber, Abomination, Dark Seal Healers, kind of a recovery card. But a lot of stuff, too, in the mid-game that we could play out, and our opponents can just kill it very affordably. These 2 cards are like 7 drops, actually not 5 drops. So that helps a little, but it still just shifts everything in this direction on the curve. which isn't really helpful. We do have some taunts, one big giant board clear, which is nice, but it might come too late. So, I don't know. We'll see. What are we going to call this deck, though, is the real question. What are we going to call this deck? Super late game. Lot of 5-drops. Couple Peddlers, but Dark Peddlers don't really express what this deck is all about. Bog Creepers sort of do, but I don't know. I kind of like the idea of calling it the Nether Warlock, because Twisting Nether really does symbolize the late game here and the recovery, and it's a cool name, and it's a name that's very unlikely to ever get used in the future because Twisting Nether is a pretty uncommon card. So yeah, I guess I'll call this the Nether Warlock run. And let's go ahead and jump into a game. I don't feel super confident about this deck. I think it's like a 3 to 4 win deck. The curve just feels wrong. Doesn't fit my playstyle necessarily well. And we're just at a really big risk of exposing ourselves in the early game by not drawing early game cards and simultaneously killing ourselves faster with life tap, right? Because we're not going to be the kind of deck that can life tap and then play a ton of stuff to recover. We're going to be life tapping playing one thing at a time. So if our opponent gets a board and we can never deal with it, they might just rush us down. I'll keep both these 3-drops even though we don't have the coin, just because we don't have enough early game to be super greedy. And I think one of them is going to be a 4-drop. Unfortunately, we drew a third 3-drop. So it kind of could be a 5-drop too. We got one of our worst 5-drops, I think, but at least this one does impact the board. Got a life tap. It's not great though. This will be played on 3 almost definitely. Not like, oh good, he's life tapping too. That's really good news. It's really good news. I like a turn 4 with the Razorfin, Young Priestess, and then we've got some options on 5. So we're actually at a decent spot. The longer he doesn't play stuff, the more likely we are to win. Yeah, that's a card, but it's really not that scary, right? I don't know. He could maybe play 2 things next turn. If he plays a bunch of stuff, it's like, is it really going to do that much? So we'll clear that, and we'll play this. And I actually want this to hit the Imp King boss. But we have so many minions that... Oh, nice! That may have shut down this trade. Probably not, because he's still going to play something. But it does limit his choices, and he can't cast a spell now, perhaps. Well, Implosion would still be pretty good, but... that's not bad. You can go here and here. It's got another one? I don't know if it'll help, really, but... Yeah, that doesn't help. Is he going to hit my face? What? Okay. So that happened. Alright, alright. I think Stormbite Commando is going to end up being the best route here. I'm going to have to do some math, probably, but... I want this to live, so I'm going to try to trade in ways that make that the most likely outcome. Actually, I don't... Oh, yeah, I can. I can trade here. And I can trade here. I can trade here. I can trade here. This is obviously quite bad against something like Hellfire and Dread Infernal too. But he actually could coin Dread Infernal, maybe. Okay, it's not the worst. Is this the Implosion turn into Dread Infernal turn? I don't think so. I can just clear and play like the Doomsayer here. Makes a lot of sense. We don't technically need to taunt because the board will be clear, right? We can't really do this. We could actually keep this alive, right? Yeah, that's actually better than keeping this alive. We don't need to keep this alive. This having 7 health is more than enough. So let's do it this way. I was going to do it the other way and keep some other stuff alive, but this just makes more sense. It's going to be hard for him to kill this without a board, right? It's likely going to be a 7/7, which is nice. It's going to help us trade and apply a lot of pressure, particularly with this taunt coming down. Because Because the Warlocks don't have a good way to deal with this. Siphon Soul, but even that takes their whole turn at this point, you know? Wow, okay. That's a weak turn. Is he, like, playing in a Twisting Nether? Like, what's happening right now? Since Demons. Okay. Got a couple demons. What? I could Dread Infernal, but I think I'm going to play the Taunt. He really might have, like, Twisting Nether or something ridiculous, but we could refill the board even if he does. I'm not going to deal with those. I'm not sacrificing 11 damage to face for that nonsense. We're in a great board position, clearly, and we have more health and more cards, or a very similar number of cards. Some instant damage as well. Taunt, heal, like, we're in a prime spot, obviously. That was one of the worst turn 6s I've ever seen. Wisp, Possessed Villager, Since Demons, Life Tap. So he has the Hellfire, but he should have attacked first. He just killed 2 minions without doing any damage. So not the best play, but irrelevant. He didn't have a way out, so. Well, I said we had to play against slow opponents for to succeed, and that was one of the worst, slowest starts I've ever seen. So, alright, 1 game. It's better than some recent runs. It's better than some runs I've had lately. Yeah, well, that felt okay, honestly. We had the good 3 drops. That's important. Our hand wasn't like Faceless Behemoth, North Sea Kraken, Bog Creeper in the mulligan, which is nice. Hellfire just killed him faster, which is nice. I can't imagine what was in his hand if that turn 6 was really his best play. Must have been a pretty abysmal hand. Oh wow, rapid start. I like it. Oh my god. I'll take it. I mean, this is not necessarily the most exciting 3-drop, but when we've got this good of a start, it's much more likely to live a couple turns, because he's going to be recovering from all this junk first. We could actually like try to make a big play where we coin this out and play these afterwards, but I think that's too risky. I'm just going to go for it. Force him to clean this stuff up. And frankly, a reversing switch could make a big play too. Could make this like a 5-attack minion, basically. So that's not going to be great against our board. He wants to trade into a big 2-drop with that, but unfortunately, we're just playing a bunch of little junk. So he's going to like hero power one of these and not unstealth that, probably. Arcane Missiles or something would be good. Oh, that cannot win. We have too much good stuff. God, how is that possible? We have so many late game cards. We just have like a stupid number of late game cards. I think I'm going to coin Implosion here, but man, Darkshire into Implosion is so ridiculous. Should I try to go for it? Because I can trade and just play Darkshire into Implosion. I think I'm going to go for it. It's so ridiculous, right? He doesn't technically have a way to do it, right? He has 3 plus 4 once I make this trade, so... oops. Oh, armor plating puts it out of the range of what? Good arcane missiles. It does not put it out of the range of Frostbolt, though, or Fireball. I'm not going to arcane. I'm not going to armor plating. It doesn't help reduce its likelihood against most things. This is ironically trading pretty well against this board. I seriously can't Implosion. My god. Unstealth that, dude. Be a bro. I can coin Bomb Lobber, but he'll be able to hero power trade. But I mean, he's going to be pretty far behind at that point. I could also coin Abomination. Huh. These would die to the Abomination for sure. Could also heal this, but that won't help because he has 6. The Abomination's kind of intriguing, but I think I'm just going to make the play that I like. This forces him to use a hero power, at very least, which really hampers his turn 5. Which helps me get ahead with Frost Ellie. Or no, we can't Frost Ellie next turn. So I don't know what we'll do. Maybe Implosion if he plays a minion that it can kill. He may want to trade this way instead. He's like, oh, well, this isn't that big of a threat. I don't want to waste my hero power. I want to play a 5-drop, which means I could, like, Implosion, make this thing nuts. Maybe he'll play, like, Servant of Yogg-Saron. It'll go bad. Oh, he did do that. Oh, Psychotron. Well, that's actually bad because Divine Shields are pretty terrible against Implosion. And I don't have a ping. So, actually, the worst possible 5-drop, maybe. I could pop the shield and heal it, but then it's still going to be within ping range. This card is not doing what I want it to do. Good news is we're not losing the game yet, which is nice, because it's very unlikely we lose in the late game. But if you don't know, if you hit a Divine Shield with Implosion, it doesn't summon any imps. All it does is pop the Divine Shield. This is not that good. I might just play this out and not attack. And kind of eat my loss here. I could also Armor Plate heal this. I guess I'm going to do that. I don't love it, but by God, it's something. Taking this to 5 is actually relevant because it denies the ping. I don't know. This might actually have been the best play. So he's trading that way. We can Implosion that for guaranteed hits and probably use the... Oh, man. Well, that's good. Flame Cannon's a card. That's a good turn. That's actually a really good turn. How greedy are we? We should kill this one for guaranteed. We can also just probably Frost Ellie, I think is fine. Frost Ellie this. This has a higher likelihood to live that way. Because you can't ping trade. Stormpike trade, that was a thing. Okay, well, it's sort of annoying, but that's a good Implosion target because it's a guaranteed kill, and we even have a minion we can play afterwards too. Abomination's not great because he can trade this way and that only takes 2 damage. Although, that would lead into a nice Implosion, but I couldn't play a 2-drop with it, so I'll do this. Oh wow, picked the wrong target I guess. Jeez. I'm not greedy enough, boys. That's why something like a mage would be amazing with Implosion. You could clean it up if it was a 3. You'd have a 2/3 chance to kill it for sure. Flame Strike's bad, but not that bad, honestly. I was just going to say, like, yeah, it clears our board, but you don't have a huge board, and we're going to have time to recover, so I don't know. I don't need to taunt yet, so I'm going to do this. Of course, you normally would tap first, but... this specifically requires you to tap second. Hopefully he doesn't just Fireball that or Flame Lance it. I think he has Fireball right there, though. No, no Fireball. Oh, that's not bad for us. We can deal with that. Actually, Abomination deals with that pretty well. Dread Infernal also kind of annoying to him, isn't it? Could trade, tap Dread Infernal. He'd have 6 damage, I'd be at 17. I'm kind of getting low if I do that. Floating Watcher tap trade. But then this thing is the annoying thing. Like, I want to ping that off, so I think I have to Dread Infernal trade. This will eventually die, but not that easily, honestly. Ooh, there's also Bog Creeper, but he has like 8 damage. I think Dread Infernal has to happen here just because of that guy. Like, it's too good. And I'll kill the biggest thing. He can obviously trade this way, but this is also a big thing he has to deal with. We have some taunts. We're not in the worst spot. Kind of scared about direct damage. That could go south for him. Oh, that's actually amazing, though. 2 cards is super relevant at this point. He's going to ping trade. That's good, too, but he'll go face, then. It's pretty good, but... Bog Creeper into Bog Creeper's pretty fun. The question is, though, do I actually want to Abomination instead? I don't think so. And I don't think I can life tap anymore either, which sucks. I know he'll be able to ping this off, but it makes it more likely that the taunt actually survives. If I had done it the other way and I'd done this, then he could have pinged this off with 2 and 5 attack. So something was going to get pinged anyway, probably. And this makes my more valuable thing more likely to live. So I like this better. I need something to play alongside these Bog Creepers. It's actually pretty good. Jeez, double Flame Strike's tough to deal with. He's got to be out of means to do to kill these, though, right? Like, he's running out of ways to deal with these. There's no doubt. I can Twisting Nether next turn, maybe. I cannot life tap. I'd love to find a 3-drop to play, but our hand is just stuffed with dudes. He's running out of cards. He can do, what, 3, 5, 6 damage to this that we know about? So he can do 8 damage now. He just found the kill here. So what? Oh, that's actually a good card. Jeez. I might actually just have to Twisting Nether this. I can Abomination and like Doomsayer, I guess. But if he clears the Abomination, I'm like almost dead. If I Twisting Nether into Dark Peddler, at least I have the board back and I still have the taunt. It's not ideal, but since the mana cost actually lines up for once, I think I'm going to go ahead and do it. Flame Imp's not good at this health total. Zombie Chow is a nice body. I guess that's good to play alongside these other big things. I don't really care about healing him right now, so I don't know. We'll see. It's actually surprisingly annoying. Stormbite Commando does not help me at all, so I guess I have to do this now. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually kill this, but he may have to run both in, so that would be okay. And I think I'll just go ahead and play this to discourage him attacking me, but if he Flame Strikes, I'm in trouble, but that's a risk I have to take, I think. He's already played 2. Come on. Oh, it also gets buffed when I take damage from this. He's going to try to kill this, but I don't know the interaction here. Oh, I took damage, but it doesn't heal itself. That actually sucks, honestly. So this is good, but this is also good. But I think I have to wait on this one because I want to make sure that if I need to kill something later, I want to be able to, right? And this applies technically more pressure. It's 11 damage instead of 9. Plus, this works with a Zombie Chow, and the other way didn't. So this was the bet. Oh, man, that's almost definitely going to give him lethal. Like, there's so many things you can get to give him lethal off that. So stupid. He didn't get it, though. At least not yet. That's good. But that's actually horrifying. Because I can't stop that. I kind of have to win the game in the next turn or two. So he needs 3 damage, or actually he only needs 2 damage to win. He has 3 we know of, so that spell had to give it to him. It's probably like Frostbolt or something. But if he doesn't have it, we're going to win, so. Is he BMing? Yeah, he's BMing. He had it. God, it was Frostbolt! Oh! God! Super frustrated. Oh, that was a tough loss, man. Nether Warlock, 1 turn away. What a ridiculous outcome. He had some pretty lucky turns. Double Flame Strike, like, found the clear on both Bog Creepers. he had some pretty lucky stuff happen. But this deck's not bad. It's capable. We'll win more games, but that's going to happen in part 2 and beyond. So thanks so much for joining me for this draft and my first couple of games. I certainly hope that you enjoyed it. And until next time, game on.